Today, I'd like to be the first to introduce you to the CCC. What the CCC is a convex curve cutter, and it's probably the most ingenious thing that I've seen come out for the bandsaw in a long time. Now, what it does for you is it allows you to make contour boxes using your bandsaw. Now, the challenge with this on the bandsaw is being able to get that perfect arc on all four sides. And that's what the CCC will do for you. We can do concave and convex boxes with this up to 16 inches in size. And the way it works is it's got a pivot point down here. I'm going to remove the pivoting platform so you get a chance to see this. If you take a look, you'll see markings here, 2, 4, 6, 8. Those are the size radiuses that this will cut for you. Depending upon what we're trying to achieve in our project, all we do is move that indexing pin to the size, and that will give you that perfect arc every single time on the bandsaw. So let me show you how easy it is to set up. I'm going to start by removing the pivoting platform so I have a little work surface here so you can see what I'm doing. Now, I've gone ahead and already glued up a box here, and this is just a small sample box. You can use oak, pine, maple, it doesn't really matter. And what will determine the size of the arc that you're able to cut is the height of the box. So we have to lay out the arc or figure out what arc we need to cut this box. So let me show you how we do that. We're going to use a square, a self-centering ruler. Of course, we need our pencil. And included with your CCC, it gives you a template of the different size arcs that it will cut. So the very first thing we need to do is we need to determine the inside wall thickness of our box. In this case, I'm going to just do this about a 1/4 inch thickness right here, and I'm going to place a mark there. The other thing we want to do is we want to make sure we have a guideline on the outer edge of the box so the blade doesn't pop through the outside edge. Now, I like to keep mine about 1/8 of an inch. You can go down to about a 32nd, but then you're pushing it, and you really don't want that blade to pop out the side of the box. So with those two marks on our box, we're going to take our square and carry those lines all the way across the box side. Now that we have that marked, we need to transfer them to the side of the box because our layout is actually done on the side of the box, not the top edge. The top edge is only determining the thickness of the inside wall and the maximum of the arc that we want to create without popping out the side. So as you can see, I've transferred those onto the side of the box. Now, what I found real handy to be able to figure out the center of any box or any project is a centering ruler. These are available in 12-inch and 24-inch sizes. And what I like about it is you just set that on top of your box, and all you do is you shift it from side to side until the measurement on the left side matches the measurement on the right side, and place a mark right there, and that is our center mark. We're going to go ahead and mark that with a square, and I'm going to draw a little C through it so you can see this. We turn that around and you can see here, there's my center mark. This is the inside edge of the box. This is the maximum outside edge of the box. Now, how do we determine the pivot that we're going to pick with our CCC? Well, included with that, you're going to receive a transparent template. And as you can see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, all the way up to the 18-inch radius that we can actually cut on this box is marked on there. And our goal for this is to find the radius that's going to match within those points. So let's start out down here at the 2-inch. If I bring the 2-inch up to the maximum mark of the radius and the center mark, you can see that I'm inside this line, and that won't work. The box isn't thick enough for that. If I shift down to the 4-inch mark, now you can see that I'm actually above this mark here and below that mark there. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at this and I'm lining the arc up to the bottom inside line, and that's actually where the blade is going to follow, and I'm well within my margin here. So I can use a 4-inch or any size larger. If I want to put a 6-inch radius, we can do a 6-inch radius on there as well. We can do 8, 10, all the way up to 16. Our template is basically used to determine our maximum size arch and our minimum size arch we can actually use. In this case, we can actually put a 4-inch arc onto this box. Now that we've determined that we can cut a 4-inch radius, we're going to bring our platform over, set it on top, and we're going to pull out the pivoting pin and drop it in the 4-inch hole, and we're going to line that up to the base. What that means now is that this is actually pivoting on a 4-inch radius. Now that we've chosen the arc, we need to put our box onto the jig. The very first thing we have to make sure we do is we have to make sure that this platform is lined up parallel to the bottom platform. And the way we do that is you look through the hole down here until the two holes line up. We take a simple spring clamp and put it on the edge of the table, and that prevents it from actually rotating. With our mark on the top side of the box and our center point, we're going to place our box on our platform, and we're going to bring in our 2 steel plates. These are our clamping plates. Now, if you notice something, on this side the plate is low, on this side the plate is high. Depending upon how tall the box actually is what side of the jaw you're going to use. If this box was taller, I'd spin the plates around and put the tall side over here. If my bandsaw is capable of handling those larger boxes, we would use this side for clamping. Right now I'm only doing about a 5-inch box, so I'm going to use the low side jaws. I'm going to bring that box out to the edge here. I'm going to go ahead and grab an F-clamp, and we're going to clamp that in onto the jaws. Just like so. Now with that clamped in, basically that aligns these jaws parallel to the box. But if you notice on the top edge here, we're not centered to the blade. That's the beauty about the jaws. They slide in our groove here, and all I need to do is move that forward or backwards until my center mark lines up with the tooth of the blade. And that's going to make a symmetrical curve on our box. Now, the instructions that come with the CCC will also show you how to make an asymmetrical, where the bottom side is wider than the top. And all we're doing is, instead of lining up from the center point, we line up about a 1/4 inch below it for asymmetrical on the base, or a 1/4 inch above it for the asymmetrical on the top side. The instructions explain how to do that, and you really have all types of options when creating your box. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line mine up center, just like so. And we're going to lock our jaw in place. Now the other thing is you can also look down, there's indexing marks or reference marks to make sure that we're lined up center. And I'm looking at both of my lines, and I can see that they're lined up perfectly center. And we secure our jaws into place. Now that that's done, we're going to unclamp the box, and we're going to shift that backwards, undo our spring clamp, and pivot it to begin the cut. Now what I need to do is pivot it forward and then bring my box forward. That mark that you saw me place on that top edge is where the blade is going to enter. So I need to bring that up until the blade is lined up with that mark and reclamp that box into place. I want to make sure that I have clearance on here. My clamp is not interfering with the bandsaw head. The starting cut point of that line is basically lined up with that saw blade. Now, because of the thickness of our stock, I'm using a 4 TPI 3/8 inch bandsaw blade, which is what we recommend. You can use a thinner blade if you're doing a tighter radius, or a little bit wider blade on those longer radiuses for those really tall cut. But you want something because you're going through that grain that needs to be able to cut nice and smooth. And we found out the 3 or 4 TPI works the best. Now that I have everything lined up and all secure, I'm going to take my stop and adjust that basically till it touches the back side of that box. And what this is designed to do is lock that box in place so it cannot slide backwards. It's clamped in place so it's not going to roll or pivot on us, and basically it makes it for a very safe and hand-free cutting application. So let's go ahead and make this cut. I'm going to back off here on the back side. You've got 2 post knob handles here that give you great control and that pivoting action, keeping your hands well away from that blade. So let's go ahead and start our saw, and we're ready to make that cut. Now you need to wait for that blade to completely stop before we decide to pivot forward, because we don't want to accidentally push the blade off the saw. We pivot back forward. We're going to release that clamp and readjust the block. Now, do not throw away those scraps. I'm going to show you what you can do with these later on once we're through cutting this box. We're going to set the piece that we just cut off to the side. We loosen our clamp, and we're going to rotate that back around. Before we do that, I want to show you here, though, that mark. You can see where the blade entered and where it came out. It's perfectly aligned. When you look at the side here, the reason why we don't have to place a mark is because when we go to make our next cut, we want the blade to basically line up with that arc and follow that exact same arc of that 45-degree cut. So we place this back into our jaws. We're going to bring that over and make sure you can check right here that that blade is basically lining up exactly on that arc. If you feel that your box isn't perfectly square and you're not quite lined up, or you didn't cut your sides exactly the same, you can adjust that box forward or backwards until that bandsaw blade lines up exactly with that mark. In this case, it looks like I am right on that mark. We're going to go ahead and clamp it back into place. We're going to make sure our stop is up against, and we're ready to make our second cut. Again, make sure you wait for that bandsaw to stop before we pivot forward. Again, we're going to rotate that back around. And now this is where that stop gets a little tricky, because we've removed material. We're going to have to reposition our box up to the front jaw, lines up there with our cut point. Clamp it into place, readjust our stop until it touches the side, move our scrap out of the way. We're ready to go ahead and make our third cut. And now for the final cut. Loosen it up, pivot and rotate it. Again, that miter, as you can see, we're following right on that corner there. See how nice and clean that corner is? A perfect radius on both sides. We want to line up basically where the two miter joints come together. Because we removed our stock again, that stop is no longer accurate, so it has to come forward. So what we do is we position this until that blade is right on our mark, clamp it in place. I'm going to adjust it just slightly. We look good. Adjust our stop, lock her into place, and we're ready to make our final cut. And there we have it. If you take a look, we've got a perfect corner, perfect radius. All we need to do is do a little bit of sanding on here, and we've got that perfect box, convex box on all four sides. Let me set that to the side, and we're going to go ahead and pull off our platform and set that back here. Now remember, we talked about the scraps. The one thing you don't want to do is throw away these scraps. You can take them over to your miter saw and cut a 45 degree on the back side, and now we can make a convex box. So here's one that I've already done for you so you get an idea. I've got it put together rubber band so it's not really glued, it's loose. But by cutting a 45 on the back side, we're able to actually make the mirror image of what we just cut apart there. So even those scraps are not going to go to waste. And you don't have to have a box that all four sides are equal. Let me show you some of my samples back here. Here's a good example of a little jewelry box that I put together. And you can see that we're longer than the depth is. We've created these drawers on the front side that have that same curve to them that make for a really nice little jewelry box. And everyone says, well, how did you make those nice, smooth, clean cuts? We did it over here on the CCC. Now, you're also not limited to four-sided box. We can use that same exact arc that we're cutting. In this case, we've used it to make this convex box here, and we're using an 8-sided box. And you can see the results that we get in having that nice, clean cut all the way around. And everyone's always amazed at how we can do this using that CCC. Now, a lot of you guys see this, our little vase that we created. What we did after we cut our box like this, this is just scrap material I had laying around of a 2x4. I bought some of that texture paint, sprayed it on there, and it gives it that granite look like it's actually stone. When in reality, when you look down here at the bottom, you'll see it's just a wooden box that we made using our CCC. This device here has really made it very simple for me to create all types of boxes, all types of shapes and sizes. It adapts onto just about any bandsaw. It only takes a couple of minutes to set it up. Once you have it set, it comes on and off the saw very easily just by releasing these two C-clamps on here. I think if you decide to pick yourself up one of these CCCs, you'll be able to create all kinds of neat gifts and projects, drawer fronts, curved convex legs, you name it. Really, the only thing that's going to limit you is your imagination. I'm Dave Hughes, and thanks for watching.